Welcome back to Crown's Crypto Cave, and a happy little Thursday morning from me wishing to you over here. And I thought I'd do a little bit of a market update. Again, usually I do these on Sunday, but I decided that today, this morning, was a great time because basically the market's been doing the same thing for the past few days, so I don't want to repeat myself too much. So I wanted to get a few ideas out there, a few new ideas, and let's get right on into it over here. Bring you over to the live scene. And here we go. We have a chart of Bitfinex, Bitcoin on the daily, and I have my 10 simple moving average represented by the red line over here, and my yellow 21 exponential moving average represented by the yellow line over here, if that's not redundant enough. Now, if you paid attention, or if you watched the 10 simple and 21 exponential moving average strategy video that I uploaded, I don't know, maybe like a week and a half ago, you'll notice you're getting a damn big signal right here. They have just crossed to the downside, the 10 indicator crossing to the downside of the 21, which does typically result in a nice short play. To show the validity of this over time, you got your last short entry right over here, pretty damn well timed for at least this drop, although you didn't catch the whole damn thing now, did you? And then the one before that, you got this guy over here. And the one before that, you got this guy over here, and the one before that, you got this guy over here. So pretty damn good, especially when giving a short signal in an overall downtrend. Speaking of downtrend, with the advent of this major rejection over here, which was essentially a front run of the 618 Fibonacci retracement, let's just kind of show this really, really quickly over here. And let's see. So, whoops, sorry, it needs to be flipped around. I always get this one wrong. If you're doing the bearish interpretation, you actually need to start it from the high of the prior. You'll see that the 618 was coming in around 74.75 on Finex, lining very, very well with this purple 200 exponential. This was front ran, and I think with that you have a very obvious signal coming into the market that bears are getting a little bit more aggressive with their selling activities. So with that said, I do believe that the proper way to be interpreting this chart right here, right now, is a major support coming in around this 6150 level right here. I'm going to get rid of this just really, really quick. And you can see, and you'll first notice, and I'm sure people are screaming at their computers, Crown, what the fuck? You got this whole thing poking out below the low right here. And I say, yes, indeed. That, to me, was more indicative of a bear trap over here, leading into a nice turnaround rally. This rally was pretty damn real over here. Compare this rally with this guy over here. Very, very since August 23rd right here. Slow trudge all the way up. Bearish divergence on all your oscillators that are under your 12-hour over there. Yeah, there we go. There's some severe bearish divergence all the way up. Everyone was talking about it's manipulation, it's news. Well, no, it's about 3 weeks of bearish divergence in a rising channel formation over here. And I'm just getting way off track, but let me just complete this thought because, well, it's gonna bug me. So you have this nice rising channel right here just to get everyone on the same page. Okay. Anyways, getting back on the topic. Yes, so you do have this nice horizontal area coming in right around here, putting it back on the daily. And with that and the advent of the major rejection last week, right around here, again, the front run of the 618, we do have what appears to be a descending triangle, a more bearishly resolved formation typically. Now, of course, whenever we're talking about technical analysis, any one of these formations can break any which way. I've seen it happen for sure. However, when we're talking about statistics as well, it's more than likely that it's going to be broken to the downside, is what this implies. And you can see this just in the price action over here. Ever since Bitcoin's ever since the bull market over here, the 3-year bull run culminating in the reversal over here, Bitcoin has essentially been printing lower high after lower high with the same low. But there's more than just the actual price action that's important. It's the psychology that it implies. And essentially you have a very nice and well-defined horizontal trend line right around here, around this 6100-ish area. And then each and every high becomes lower and lower, indicating that the selling is getting more aggressive. And in fact, bears are foregoing potential better entries for just getting their entries in to begin with. So this first bounce over here from this very aggressive move down to 6,000, bounce it up to 12,000, so a $6,000 gain. Then real move down back to the 6,000 area once again, and then a nice little bounce again, about $3,000 up this time to 10,000. Then a very aggressive move down to the downside, taking actually below 6,000 over here, and a little bit of a bounce back 2,000 up but, getting a little bit weaker over here. And then a boom, very, very aggressive move downwards over here. And $1,000, 200 move over here. As you're probably noticing a trend by now. And then boom, another big, girthy, aggressive move to the downside right again over here. So just kind of reiterate and sum it up. You have a $6,000 bounce over here, $3,000 bounce over here, $2,000 bounce over here, and a little over $1,000 bounce over here. So actually getting weaker by a greater degree each time as well. So again, I am leaning towards this being broken to the downside. Now time is the variable component over here. Time is something that technical analysis doesn't give us too much to work with, at least in the way that I've seen it done over the years. I've not really met anyone who's been doing this for 20, 30 years who can consistently get the timing aspect down. But if you do know someone, definitely let me know. Anyways, so what are the bulls looking at? What are the bulls looking at over here? And I believe it's best defined on the 3-day daily chart over here, bringing you over here to GDAX as some sort of a falling pizza wedge or something like that. And, you look at this and it does have the right shape, but I would offer the first critique of this, and the reason why I'm not leaning towards it is because essentially the volume catcher does not look proper. When you're in a falling wedge, it implies a psychology. It implies basically a shakeout of sellers. Instead over here, we actually see volume kind of increasing as the pattern progresses and matures, with increasing volume on the sell side. So that is actually the exact opposite of what I'm looking for. However, hey, if you are playing this pattern, if I were to give the bulls their due credence, so to say, I need to see a 3-day daily close above this area over here, 7,400 to this high, essentially, which would also correlate with a higher high over this guy over here, which would actually, be your first higher high since 2018, right? So that would certainly be a change of behavior. However, we don't have anything of the sort just yet. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but I'm not leaning towards this happening, to be quite clear. I'm not leaning towards this happening. That would be your first big signal that the things are turning around. But the very, very obvious signal that the market has bottomed out, if it is going to, if this is going to be a bottom, or if we already do have a bottom in, I would not be comfortable saying that the bottom isn't until Bitcoin starts printing and closing higher time frames above this 10,000 area right around here. If it can do that, then yes, that would be pretty damn impressive to me. I would certainly not be looking for place to short any longer. I'd just be looking for a place to build up longs. So for right here, right now, just kind of another hang around the purple 200 exponential, no matter which way you cut it. It is not a good signal, in my experience, to be coming back down to base on your former lows. Now, again, the timing component of this is the major variable here. But as you can see, actually, this is a little bit better represented on the 3-day daily chart now, isn't it? But as you can see, to me, it's a matter of time before it does indeed get follow through. But time is, you spent 9 months in this formation over here. Doesn't mean that I can't spend a little bit more time. In fact, you do have an apex on this because it is a triangle. So the nature of it would have an apex right around here, around early December. So theoretically speaking, it could, take all the way till then before it's forced to choose a direction. I think it's very likely that it probably doesn't take that long to choose a direction. In fact, when formations are about 70 to 75% full, they can break at any given moment. It just becomes extremely likely that they do. So with that said, let's go over here to the weekly. I'm gonna put on a different indicator over here. I'm gonna put on something that I don't typically show, but if you are in the technical analysis program, you did just get a nice module on this guy over here. So I'm going to bring it up, and Jesus Christ, just got to get rid of all my other things. And there we go. The accumulation distribution guy over here. Actually, no, this is not the right one that I want to be looking at. I want to be looking at one of these slightly different ones. Let's see. Where do we have it? I know somewhere in here. Just give me 1 second as I figure this one out. And are you in here? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, let's try this then. Okay. There it is. Okay. Jesus Christ. It's right in front of my eyes. Blind, Crown, you're blind. And as you can see over here, funnily enough, I'm going to put it back on the daily, actually. You are starting to dig deep into the distribution line over here. However, it's the slope of this is still increasing, actually. The slope of this is still increasing, which is important because the slope is how you use this indicator over here. And as the slope increases, it does give credence to the actual downtrend and the grip of the bears. It's not until you start turning around like this guy over here when you lose the slope where price action does indeed start to follow. Now, you you would imagine by the same token that it's going to be pretty damn hard to keep up this sort of momentum over here. I mean, you're quite literally, nearing the bottom-ish area. But as you can see, Bitcoin has never even really got this far deep in this formation as far as distribution goes. So it can certainly go more. Is my point over here. Now, if we do go to the higher time frames, especially the weekly, as we were just on, you'll notice that it's actually still printing green over here, and you are getting a severe loss of momentum going all the way through. You're getting some divergences, as we call it, so far. Now, this one's obviously still going, but it is very indicative that, hey, I do believe strongly that this is the right way to be interpreting this chart, essentially as consolidation around 6,000 all the way to about 12,000, getting more and more tied up as time goes on. But the accumulation of it is getting weaker and weaker, meaning that it's more and more likely to actually break this formation to the downside. So again, a little bit of a different look at this indicator, as I don't think too many people talk about this one, so I just wanted to quickly show it. And it gives us a little bit unique information over there. Speaking of unique information, I would like to also show this, the good old B bands, the good old Bollinger Bands over here, the Trollinger Bands. You need some Trollinger Bands in your life because they're just basically agreeing with everything that I'm saying over here. This reddish brown line is your 20 simple moving average. You can see that with the advent of last week, not only did you get a bearish engulfing dildo on your weekly, I use the word dildo, but it's also to be interpreted as a rejection of this 20 simple moving average, which again is very important with the way that it happened, because you have not successfully opened and closed a dildo above this 20 simple moving average ever since the big turnaround over here. So to me, that's saying, hey, we're still in the heavy grips of a bearish bearish control over here. And with the rejection of this 20 simple, as the Bollinger Bands do start to tighten up, it would start to align or suggest that that this is getting ready for a test of the lower Bollinger Bands over here, which would actually be somewhere right around 5,200. And as you can see over here, when it starts to actually test the outside, it does what's called pushing. It starts to push it. You really haven't seen it push to the downside just yet. In fact, all you can see on the weekly is it's kind of scary actually, because you really it just says that we've been consolidating, even though it's been a very, very big range, which I do agree with. The consolidation range again being between 6,000 and about 12,000, but declining over time, all the way down to about 7,500 now. So again, if it is going to get a bear move, or a bearish break of this, or just push the boundaries, it can really start to dig deep down into it, just like just like it was kind of pushing it on the upside as well. So again, a lot of things kind of aligning with this. And again, I can't understate the importance of looking at this and understanding that this was a bearish engulfing dildo on the weekly, on not too high volume, to be quite honest, not too high volume. Although and also to be honest, it was not a bearish engulfing on Finex, but every other exchange it was, just to kind of show stamp over here. You do have a bearish engulfing for sure. And GDAX over here, you have a bearish engulfing as well. And if I were to go to MEX, you're going to also notice the same thing. Yep, by $100 each on each of the other exchanges. So I'm going to go with the other exchanges on that one. But definitely have to talk about that. So yes, indeed, these are the things that I'm thinking of right here, right now. I'm going to put back on my my exponentials over here, put back on my trend lines, and let's talk about what happens if this area does indeed break. What happens if this area does indeed break? Actually, first things first, let's go over a few more things when it comes to the exponentials over here. I'm going to bring it back to the daily. And not only do you have this red 10 simple moving average crossing the downside of the yellow 21 exponential moving average over here, but you also have your yellow 21 exponential being crossing to the downside of your green 55 over here. Another one of those just high quality, high degree trend setups when you're looking at your exponentials. Now you could actually even look at this as it never even got crossed up to the upside, but I think it implies the same thing essentially. Price action was spit out as soon as it even suggested that it might be crossing to the upside right over here on heavy volume, breaking this rising channel to the downside. To me, that is incredibly indicative of heavy sell pressure, saying that, hey, the bots and the algorithms are certainly on the sell side. Okay, certainly is a bad word to use, but very, 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 very likely to be on the sell side, especially when you look at it like through this sort of lens over here. And now we're just kind of coming back up and testing the red 10 simple moving average over here. Nice little reactionary bounce on, again, very low volume. Again, very, very similar, very, 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 very similar action to this area over here. Just this low volume kind kind of trudge, kind of like slow move up, this molassesy move up as Bitcoin gets stuck once again in the mud. But again, over here, you actually did have some damn good buying on the bottom, to be quite honest. You had a nice hammer dilly, major bull wick poking at the bottom, a couple of them actually. And this one was on pretty damn good volume. And yes, the rally was on pretty damn low volume. But my point is over here, when you do when you do have a major move like this, it's pretty likely that you will have a reactionary retracement just by the nature of it. But I don't see too much buying going on at the bottom here just yet. Let's move on to the 2-day, as the 2-day is telling you something very, 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 very important right now. The 2-day has gotten a death cross, the second death cross that Bitcoin has ever seen in its almost 10-year history over here. And again, the only other death cross that Bitcoin does indeed have is this guy over here in 2014. Very, very similar situation right around here. The green 55 exponential cross to the downside of the purple 200, and it sent Bitcoin onto its red dildo death. The full capitulation about another, well, let's just kind of measure this one out. I'm not taking it from the ultimate high of that because I don't think that's too useful, but about 55 to 60% down here, depending upon if you use the wick or the body, in that range. So this does have good confluence with producing some damn large movements, although we only have one other example in Bitcoin's history, and this is not even the best crossover here, to be quite honest, because you really want to see price action being pulled into it. Now you do see the price action being pulled into the green 55 over here and actually wick up and test the purple 200, and then after that you do get the real move. And to kind of talk about it a little bit more directly over here, I believe that you actually got your test over here as Bitcoin tried to rally above the 200 exponential and 55, and actually did for a day, again on extremely light volume over here, and then essentially threw it right back down, kind of a little bit of a fake out as that last gaps, reaching for that area to kind of avert that major crisis. So again, another very telling thing in my opinion. What else do we have to look at? Well, let's go over here to the 3-day. 3-day, again, just kind of hanging around the 200 exponential, this purple line right around here. And the 3-day is the one that actually does make a little bit more sense when you are looking at sorry, let's go over here. Let's go back over here to Finex when you are looking at this horizontal area right here. Not only that, but I do want to offer up, and I do want to look at just a little bit more of a unique thing. I've been monitoring this for a while now. The MVT signal, again, if you're not familiar with it, it is completely different from any other indicator that we look at because it's not derived from price, volume, and time. It's derived from the 90-day moving average, the network value divided by the 90-day moving average of the daily transaction value, which basically means that it calls tops pretty fucking well, which you did pretty damn well over here in middle of 2013, then end of 2013 right here, bull trap of 2014, end of 2017, this major run to 20,000, and then again, actually just a few days ago, printing the second highest MVT signal ever in Bitcoin's history. The only one higher really is this November 2013 area right here, where it actually did get significantly higher. But you do have a very similar situation to what you had in 2014 in this bull trap over here, as this MVT signal is extremely high in comparison to the price action, which anything over essentially 150 is considered damn high. So this would be suggestive that Bitcoin does have plenty of room to move to the downside if it does indeed want, which it feels like it does. Again, the time component is that kind of missing X factor. So going back on over here to the charts, let's go into the monthly. No one ever looks at the monthly, but you know what? Well, you should, because it's important. And in the monthly, you can see you can see some very interesting things over here. Not only do you have information from the whole last market cycle to just kind of wrap it up really quickly, you have your first dildo closing above your yellow 21 exponential over here on heavy volume, and then it never even gets close to testing it again until over here in 2018. But essentially you have this 3-year bull run over here, culminating in this pair of tweezer top dildos over here on heavy volume. Then you break that, or you get follow through to the downside, making a 6,000 low right here, and then consolidating in this triangular fashion right here between 6,000 and 12,000. Resolve that consolidation to the downside right over here, and now Bitcoin has had this very, 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 very low volume just kind of drift along the yellow 21 exponential, which has actually completely flatlined, it looks like, and perhaps even hinting at a little bit of a downward slope now, which again would be the first time since 2014 that is having that has actually really even happened. If you're not familiar with why this is important, the 21 exponential is kind of like my litmus test for generally bullish and generally bearish, and especially on a monthly dildo chart like this one right here, it holds a lot of weight. for the actual market cycle and the way that I look at it, especially, my sort of background is in equity options as a market maker. And so I'm used to looking at these higher time frames to kind of judge these stocks that have, decades of history, really. Bitcoin just has about 8 to 9 years of history now. So, I'm looking at this, and it would imply that, hey, if you do break this yellow 21 exponential over here, the next kind of area that falls is this blue simple 30 moving average over here, which would be coming in around 4,300 exactly. So what else do we have pointing towards 4,300? Well, I'm glad you asked. We do have the weekly 200, I believe. Yes, the weekly 200 exponential coming in around, 4,000-ish area. It's not quite there just yet, but it's still kind of sloped to the upside. So I'm going to put on the drawing tools over here. And what else do we have? What else can we find? Well, we do have the 786 Fibonacci retracement coming in right around the 4,200-ish range, right around here. We do have this dotted trend line, which represents the almost 10, the nice red arrows pointing towards it, which represents the almost 8 or 9 year history of Bitcoin, which has never been broken. And every time that Bitcoin has touched down on it, it's never gone lower. And that would be coming in somewhere right around here if price action were to approach it relatively soon. Again, soon is a relative time. Timing is not something that I want to is really not something that I want to talk too much about, because I don't really believe in it too much, to be quite honest. You do have some nice horizontals coming in from over here. If I were to put it on the daily, you would notice that they actually do make sense. And then again, your 200 exponential right here coming in around this area, and this logarithmic downtrend line kind of intersecting all these areas, which again is where you actually did bottom out in 2014. Although that was on your 886 Fibonacci retracement, which is all the way down here, which is a measure move of this potential bear flag over here. I should say also, if I were to put on the 200 simple, that would be pointed down there as well. So again, a couple different ideas here, but of course, one thing before the other. Now, 6,100 has to break first before any of this is even on the table, in my opinion. And putting it back on over here on the daily, and taking everything off and putting on. Whoops, I probably need to take this off now too, huh? Nope, it's already off. There we go. All right, so putting back on the volume profile over here, you'll notice that Bitcoin basically has nothing doing from, as soon as it loses this kind of support right around here, that 5,800 officially, all the way down to this next high volume node, which again is in that mid to low 4,000s range that we just spoke about, or actually mid to high 4,000s range. That does kind of begin at this 4,800 high. So at the end of the day, a lot of things, in my opinion, pointing to the downside over here. Even if you are, even if you are a bull right now, and you are looking at this as some sort of a falling wedge, you'd be looking at the bottom support of this wedge actually coming in somewhere right around here, around 5,600, depending upon where you kind of approach it, right, all the way down to about 5,500. So my point is with this is that, even if it were to fall, bulls would still be looking at that and saying, well, hey, it's fine. It's still in a falling wedge. As long as you're above 5,500, essentially, you're good. You're good to go. And maybe it does bounce around there is what I want to talk about. Maybe it does bounce around there. In fact, very rarely do you see things just shoot down in a straight line. That's not too normal. It does happen sometimes in crypto, especially if you're trading altcoins right now. But it's a little bit less likely. So again, just looking for places of areas that kind of make sense in that case, and that's what I'd be looking at over there. And again, just kind of show the validity of the daily. Right over here, the daily with everything taken off, you'll notice that, well, actually, let's go over here to Finex. You'll notice that, yes, it does make sense that you do have some horizontal coming in right around here, which would be that mid 4,000s range, and somewhere right around here, it looks like as well. So it would be right around here. So like low 4,000s to mid 4,000s, that would kind of be the next big area that I'd look for an actual major bounce to be implied at, if it were to get that bearish break. So again, I'm making a lot of assumptions over here, but I do believe that this is pretty damn likely. Now, here's the thing, and here's probably the new information that I'm going to be presenting in this video here, in the sense that Ethereum looks like it has a nice local bottom in place. In fact, I'm going to adjust this down because you need to adjust it with new price action. Heavy volume on this hammer dildo right here, extremely heavy volume. This could be capitulation volume. In fact, it does stand out head and shoulders above everything else. So the new idea that I really want to be presenting in this video over here is a what if scenario. What if, because Ethereum is really leading this market to the downside, or was. I mean, that looks like a good low for now. But my point is that, hey, if Ethereum is looking like this, as well as the rest of the alts, essentially, Well, could it be that they capitulate and that essentially takes care of Bitcoin? Perhaps it does. Or, there's two scenarios. It's either it's not going to be that bad for Bitcoin because everything is capitulated through the alts into Bitcoin, or or everything is going to get much worse because Bitcoin has plenty of room to move to the downside, as we just discussed. And while we do have these supports going down over here on Ethereum, Mr. Buteral over here, it's it's a hard chart to love. So of course, for Mr. Buteral over here, let's kind of talk about a few areas of resistance on the way back up if this is to be a nice low. The next one that really stands out, in my opinion, is this 220-ish area right here, which is likely to line up with this yellow 21 exponential. Again, I really want to be forceful in saying this volume on this bottoming dildo right here is pretty impressive. This could be a nice low for Ethereum. It's a low until it's not. This is a low until it's not, and really there's nothing more profound to say about that except unless if you get like a daily dildo close below this horizontal right here at about $1.80. What is it? $1.82.5? Yeah. That would be the big level to be aware of right there. Until then, Ethereum is basically just going up. How far does it get? Well, that is a good question. And again, it does make me consider the fact, well, what if all of these alts can capitulate and that just kind of takes care of Bitcoin in a way? I'm not leaning towards that happening. Market cycles are typically get played out whether you like them or not, but it is a possibility because these have had a severe downtrend, and this does look like capitulation right here. It actually does. It stands out head and shoulders above anything else. Severe downtrend before, but as you can see, this whole rolling over formation over here is certainly not strong. It's certainly not a sign of strength. So I'm going to call it a local low for now. How would you know that Crown is wrong? Crown's an idiot, and this thing is going back onto all-time highs. Well, if you started trading above this guy right here at about 375, 376 on Finex, that'd be pretty damn impressive, and I'd be pretty damn confident in saying, yeah, I think we've seen the lows for Mr. Buteral over here. Likely that it's going to try to make some new highs before revisiting that area, or if it even ever does. But again, that is a major assumption. Getting that quite literally has about $200 to go before it gets to that area. But hey, just so we're all on the same page here. And again, this horizontal right here must be defended. If 182.5 is lost by the bulls, then it gets to join everything else in the gutter now, doesn't it? So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Mr. Buteral, and really the big idea that I wanted to be speaking on today, because you're just not seeing Bitcoin follow through in the same way. It could be that maybe the alts capitulate first and then Bitcoin, goes second, and there's some sort of decoupling. We have to kind of think about these other ideas here, just because we don't know. This is a unique situation. We don't have too much information from a past market cycle in 2014 with most of these alts, because most of those alts from 2014 got washed out, which I do believe is the big point of this phase of the market cycle, is to really wash these things out. So when I do look at all the higher time frames in Bitcoin, to be very, very clear, I think bearish is just kind of a matter of time, unless if some of those triggers are hit. Again, the triggers being, first things first, making a high above this area right here, 7,500, and then 10,000 would be the very obvious area. But by the same token, it's like, well, if Bitcoin does break to the downside, and if the alts do fall, well, you will see a very similar situation of 2014, where a lot of those same alts get, they don't die, right? They don't die, but proverbially, Jesus Christ, I can't even speak. They do, in a way, because they're, do you ever hear fucking Aurora coin anymore, or Eurocoin, or fucking Rape coin? No, can't say that. But all these different things, right? All these different things, like you probably haven't even heard of them, or if you have, you probably don't even bother looking at them anymore because they're so far deep into the dregs of coinmarketcap.com that it's not even worth looking at, right? So that's probably going to do it for today's video. Again, the big idea here is, what does it mean when all the alts look like they've gone through some pretty fucking hefty selling and are putting in some local lows, when Mr. Bitcoin is signaling some pretty damn bearish things on a lot of the higher time frames? Again, to kind of add it all up, you got the 2-day dildo death cross, you got the daily 10 simple trading below the yellow 21, you got the 21 trading below the 55 on the daily as well. Your weekly is a bearish engulfing dildo. It's a rejection of your 20 simple on the Bollinger Bands, which does kind of imply a test of the downside. The monthly is looking like it's just kind of slowly teetering along that 21 exponential. But hey, it ain't over till it's over. So again, 6150 is the area to hold. If we're going to lower time frames over here, you can certainly talk about a more tight range between this area right here, your range high and your range low. Essentially, your range high being about 6550, your range low being about 6150ish area. Anything in between that area is kind of not worth. I mean, it just doesn't really change the game in my opinion. Although you did print some nice divergence on your 4-hour chart over here. Sorry, if I can bring it up, that would be even better. God damn it, this is so annoying. There we go. You have some bullish divergence down here. Sorry about that. You have some bullish divergence coming off the lows over here, and that seems to be playing out right here, right now, as Bitcoin makes its way into the neutral zone. And I think the next test is to really come relatively soon. Again, timing though, not something that I'm too comfortable with talking about overall. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for today. Until Bitcoin actually breaks above this area right here, I wouldn't necessarily consider that bullish. I'd certainly de-risk my short positions, but I can't be I really don't want to be taking longs unless if we make a new high over this guy over here. I feel like things are too tight, things are too down to the wire that as long as you're below 6550, the range high, the bottom is in danger of dropping out at any given moment. Now, please do not interpret that as the bottom is dropping out at this moment. No, I'm just saying as long as Bitcoin is below 6550, it's like kind of in the red zone, right? To make a football analogy, it's in the red zone, and it can happen at any moment. Doesn't mean it will, but it can happen. Defense can still come back in, right? The bulls can still come back in, although it doesn't look like the most strong response currently, and the buying at the bottom is not to me is not indicative of a true low. I mean, perhaps obviously a local low so far, but you do have several resistances on the way back up. If you get on the way back up, again, the range high 6550, it's also going to start to align with your yellow 21 exponential. Then you got your blue 30 simple moving average at 6650. Then you got your green 55 exponential coming in around 6750. Daily oscillators, your RSI is just actually coming back to test your exponential at the edge of the bearish zone is the way that I look at that. And your daily stochastics are crossing up to the upside. They are crossing up to the upside, so that is positive for sure. But overall, I think that it's one of those things, it's a question of, in my opinion, more of when now. So I am kind of showing a little bit more of my bearish opinion over here, which I do apologize about to all the bulls out there, but got to call a spade. And I do, and while, Bitcoin can kind of, oscillate in the time being, as long as it's essentially below those critical areas, I look at this with heavily bearish goggles and really just look for a place to get some shorts in. So I hope that this video finds you well. I'll be back on live stream just in a little bit later. I don't know, like 5 or 6 hours, whatever it might be. Look forward to see you guys there. Hope everyone has a beautiful rest of your Thursday, and take care.